everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, and this is Flosstube number 115. Today is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. It's the day before Thanksgiving in the United States. And it's been about 3 weeks since my last video, and I have quite a bit of stitching to show. I have several finishes, and some new starts and some works in progress, some whips. And I even have two things I've finished that I cannot show this video, but hopefully next video I'll be able to show those. So even with not showing those, I've got a lot of stitching today, I think. But I'm hoping this will be a short one. I always hope that, and I often say that, and then it's not the case. This might be another hour, 15-minute video, which is about where I usually land. But we'll see. I'm hoping it's not. So, after my last video, I immediately set to work to finish Things I Know for Certain by my friend Marissa. She's Mkissa Creations on Etsy. Here's her shop right here, Mkissa Creations. And this was, I was really close to a finish, so I was excited to get back to this, and I was able to get this done. So let me show you. This is stitched on a 30 count linen that was dyed by my friend Diana. It is Kismet Stitches. She will occasionally do these like fabric dye experiments, so it's just a one-off. I don't think she would be able to recreate this, but it's this beautiful green. It doesn't ever want to photograph, like for Instagram, the right shade, but I think it shows up on camera okay usually. But it's a really pretty green, and I used various fabrics from floss from Stash, but in the colors that Marissa used. So she used a green, a purple, a white, and a red, and then like I think she used 3799 in DMC for the witches. So I just used things I had in Stash that were like similar tones. So this is words from the movie Practical Magic. I've read the book, and I'm pretty sure this isn't actually in the book, so it's just from the movie, but the movie and the book are fabulous. So it says, this is Things I Know for Certain. Always throw spilled salt over your left shoulder. Keep rosemary by your garden gate. Plant lavender for luck. And fall in love whenever you can. And then, of course, the little witches at the bottom here. Now, these took forever to stitch, which was, I knew they would, and Marissa had warned me, but the good news was I was able to do the sewing method when I got into these little witches. So I just outlined the bodies, and then I did the sewing method to do the fill-in, which made it go so much faster. I can't always do the sewing method. I actually rarely do the sewing method for stitching because I don't think my stitches look as neat, but I was able to get a lot of practice with these. And something about like this type of floss kind of hid like the stitches not being perfect. Like I couldn't have done it with a white floss. It would have been probably, too obvious to me. But I was able to get a lot of practice. The weave and type of fabric really made it easy to do the sewing method for these. So they went really fast. I was able to do like 1 to 1.5 witches a day. So I was able to finish this in less than a week. And it's so cute. I love it. And so I had wanted, this had been a whip for quite a long time. And I really wanted to get it done so I could start her second Practical Magic piece. So believe it or not, she's got 2 of them. I think it is surely one of her favorite movies. So she also designed Midnight Margaritas. And she had gifted me this pattern back when she released it. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to start it until I finish the other one. So now that I've finished, I can finally start Midnight Margaritas. And this is just the recipe for Midnight Margaritas from the movie. It's super cute, much less stitching on this pattern. So I'm excited that this one certainly won't take me so long to do. It's mostly just words and a little bit of stitching, but not nearly as much as the other. So that's up next. I have to find some fabric, and I have to decide what I'm doing with that, but I'm excited that I get to do it now that I finished Things I Know for Certain. So then, my last video was like, I think 2 days before Halloween or something like that. The day before Halloween, I don't know. On Halloween day, it doesn't matter. On Halloween day, I wanted a quick like start and finish, a SAF, S-A-F, start and finish. So I went and dug through my kitted up like small projects, and there's one that I've just been meaning to stitch like for forever and just never have gotten around to it. And it's such a like quick stitch. This is Spooky Hollow by Bendy Stitchy. And I had it kitted up, and I just was like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get that going. And I was able, I didn't finish it on Halloween, but I finished it the next day, like the next morning. It was really a quick stitch. So this is a mystery count, like 28 count even weave, mystery linen. I have no idea what it is. And I didn't use the called for DMC. I just grabbed like fancy floss that was handy. So it's certainly the same, about the same. It's, you know, an orange and a green and a black and a brown, but from Stash. But the big change was the border. So Michelle did her border in this lime green. I used I think it was a Night Stalker calling floss from a Halloween mystery box. And it's one of those flosses that's like a speckled yarn dye. And I never know what to do with those flosses. Like I think they look so cool, but I never know how to use them. And so I thought, well, maybe with this border's kind of, you know, small and simple, like maybe it'll work well. And I really, really, really love how it looks. So I was really excited that I finally got to use one of those kind of crazy flosses that I enjoy, but I never know how to use them. It worked out perfectly. So this is actually a gift for my friend Heather. Link is my homeboy. For her birthday in October, she wanted everybody to stitch her a little pumpkin. So I'm going to gift that to her because I have some things I need to send to her anyway. So then I needed to get back to my challenge. I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I try to keep this really brief, but I've explained in more detail, like in previous videos. But I challenged myself to try to finish 40 old whips before my next birthday, which is January 29th. So I gave myself basically like the whole year of 2023 plus like a little bonus of mostly all of January. So it's really like 13 months to finish 40 works in progress. And my rule was they had to be works in progress that I had started before my birthday. So not like recent things I've started, because those could certainly be easy finishes, but I had to finish 40 like older works in progress so that they didn't have another birthday by my next birthday. So I had to get back to my goal. I'm a little bit I'm actually doing much better, much better than I thought I would be, considering we're into November. And I am, I need to get 2 more finishes this month to be like perfectly on track. Not sure if I'll do it or not, but it's fine. I'm in the ballpark. I'm really proud of myself for like how much I've been able to do. So anyway, I had, even though I wanted to start all the things, like I've got things kitted up. I'm really excited. I got all my cross stitch out of storage. So I have all this access to things, and I want to start everything, but I was like, no, you need to finish something. So I grabbed this whip, Not Forgotten Farm, Sisters of the Broom. And this was one I also had shown in my last video. I had done some work on, but then set it aside for a few days. So I picked it back up to finish it. This calls for just 4 colors of DMC floss. This is a terrible, terrible picture of the design. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to show you the finish so you can see what it looks like. Because it's a really great design. And I did use the 4 called for DMCs. So the big difference though is I stitched mine on more of a wild fabric. So this is Picture This Plus 40 count Meyer. And I used 1 string of DMC over 2. But those are the called for DMCs. And this is such an awesome design. Like again, Not Forgotten Farm, I love her designs. They're so fabulous, but you tend to like not have the best representation on the pattern. So this pattern was printed in 2012. I'm sure if she was printing it now, it'd look a lot better. But with hers, I think you really have to like see them stitched up. Like if I see someone working on one, then I'll like run and buy it, because they just don't always show up so well on the patterns, like if you're flipping through the patterns at a needle workshop. But anyway, this is it. It looks great. And this was a really quick stitch. Once I like buckled down, I really got into it. So that is Sisters of the Broom, and I love, love, love it. I love my fabric. I love the design. I think it turned out so great. So then I was good. And again, I didn't start something new. Actually, that's not true. I think I did start something new, and then I'm going out of order. It doesn't matter. I finished something else. I'm showing you my finishes first. So this is why I feel like so out of it. It's only been 3 weeks since my last video, but I really feel, I feel like I haven't done this in forever. I've had some life stuff going on. I'm not getting into it. But there's been some really big stuff, happening, and I had to go home, for 4 days. So it's only been 3 weeks, but it feels like longer, and I'm just going through a lot. So, anyway, this is my next finish. Sorry. I should really edit this out, but I don't feel like it. I finished Emily Dickinson Birds by Wild Violet Cross Stitch. So I don't have the pattern because I had just printed it off in black and white. But Ryan at Wild Violet had charted this where you could use 3 colors, and you could do like some more like whites and creams on a darker fabric. And then she showed where people had done just like a monochrome, like darker floss, and I like the look of that. So that's what I did. This is a mystery linen. It's like a 40 count, I think. And the floss I used is Barbarol Creations, and it was, I think, a limited edition, like a black and purple floss. So I don't know if you can see all the black and purple, but it's beautiful. In person, you can see the variation between, but on camera, it might just look like black floss. But anyway, this was another really quick stitch, and really a beautiful design. And I'm really glad that I was able to like get another quick finish in with this. In case you can't read it, it's from a poem by Emily Dickinson, and it says, "Unable are the loved to die, for love is immortality." So I think I have one more finish. So that I can show. I have 2 more finishes that I cannot show today. So while I was traveling, I had grabbed a Mill Hill kit for a quick project to work on when traveling. So the small Mill Hill kits are just perfect for traveling, because if you're like on a plane, you can kind of, they're usually about anywhere from like this big to this big, but you can kind of sit and stay in your space. Like, I don't feel like I can bring my 11 by 11 Q snap with me on the plane. I mean, I could, but I feel like I might be like elbowing the person next to me. So I like a nice small like stitch in hand project. So Mill Hills are just perfect for that. So I always have a few like in my stash for like a quick grab and go for a trip. So I grabbed it's called Pumpkin Trio, and this was such a quick stitch. I finished this in a day and a half. And of course, with the Mill Hill kit, it comes with floss and beads and the paper and a needle. So it comes with everything except for scissors. I haven't fully finished this yet, obviously, but I like to keep it simple with Mill Hills. I just cut out around the design. I glue some felt onto the back, and I put a hanger, like a hanger with beads or ribbon, and just make little ornaments out of them. But this was such a quick, fun stitch, but really pretty. I've loved this, and I've been meaning to stitch it for like the last 2 falls and just haven't gotten a chance to do it. So I was glad to get that done. All right, so those are all my finishes. So I have a couple of works in progress as well, including 2 new starts. So I had an anniversary. My partner and I had our anniversary on November 4th, and I had been wanting, for a couple of years, I had decided I was going to stitch this pattern for us, but stuff was always going on where I just like couldn't ever get to it. So this year I was like, I'm doing it. November 4th, I'm starting this. And I did. It's Barbara Anna Designs Love Never Fails. So this is a pretty popular pattern. You've probably seen it. And in the little heart cartouche is a verse from, it's a biblical verse. It's not coming to me at the moment what like part of the Bible it's from, but it's the love is patient, love is kind. It always protects, always trusts, always perseveres, love never fails. Well, I wanted to rechart that to something that was more meaningful to my relationship with my partner. So I had recharted it probably like 2 years ago. So it's just been sitting and waiting. So I finally got around to it. So I did start in the center just so I could get that part done first. I did change my colors. So you can probably see on this printout. So it's just, it started with DMC. And when I looked at the DMC that's called for, and it might have just been my printer, but it really wasn't matching up. So like this, on my printout, this is kind of like a blue green, like a deep aqua kind of color. The actual called for colors were like DMC 500, 501, 502, somewhere around there, which is just a green with a hint of blue to it, but really more like just a green, whereas this is blue. So I decided, and I wanted to make this special because it's a meaningful stitch. So I decided to convert to silks. And then I went a little rogue on some of the colors. I wasn't trying to match this exactly. So I did, I think I kind of punched up the colors. I made them a little more vibrant, a little more jewel toned, a little more like luscious. So, and I'm really happy with how this is looking. I'm stitching this on a 40 count color in cotton, and the color is, it was from the July 2020 Fabric Club, and it's called Pearwood. So I don't know if that was just exclusive to that month or if that's something that they've released since. But yeah, it's called Pearwood. It's just a really, really beautiful neutral. And here's where I got with my silk conversion. So you can see I did just end up going with a green instead of a blue for this section, but I did like a more punched up emerald green. And the words in the center are from a song by Bright Eyes called First Day of My Life. And that's just a song that has a lot of meaning that I don't need to explain to you guys because it doesn't matter for you, but it means something for my relationship. So this is how far I got. I think, so this is the top. So I did make it to the top of the pattern. And it was really fun to stitch, but I only worked on this, I think, for 2 days. And then I set it aside, as I tend to do. But I'm really happy with my colors and how my colors are looking. They're so pretty. So then I had another impromptu start, and this is a start, what I'm hoping will be a start and a finish, although I didn't finish it. I didn't, but I can. I know I can. So Abby at Abby Bella Stitch had a birthday, and it's been long enough now that I can't remember exactly what day it was. It was a week or two ago, week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But she had a birthday, and she said, you know, for my birthday, if you guys can like stitch on a pattern with me, she said she was going to start Got the Morbs by Modern Folk Embroidery. And I had already bought it, and I had already had it like partially kitted up and wanted to stitch it like when it came out and just hadn't gotten to it yet. So I was like, all right, like twist my arm. It's a great reason to finally get me to start this pattern. So I did start Got the Morbs. I don't have it printed out. I'm stitching it off of a PDF. But what's missing is there's some beautiful border up here and down here that I still need to get to, but I got the whole center of it done. And this is a mystery linen. I think it's a 38 count or 40 count, somewhere in there. I don't know what it is. It's a complete mystery to me. And I'm using this floss from Forbidden Fiber company called Cardinal Thaumatrope. This was from a Sleepy Hollow box. And I think it was Starlight Stitchery. It might have been Starlight Stitchery Sleepy Hollow box. Is that right? I think that's right. I think it was like one of the first boxes Starlight Stitchery ever did. Anyway, I was emboldened by how well that spackled floss turned out on that bendy stitchy design, that I was like, you know, I'm gonna use one of these crazy flosses again. One of these flosses that it sits in stash and I don't know what to do with it because the colors, you know, this one goes from black to red to gray. And I just wasn't sure, but I think it looks so cool. I love how it turned out. So that is got the morbs, and I need to get back to this and finish this. I didn't even write it down on my whip list because I was like, no, that's a staff. That's a start and a finish. So there's no need to write it down just to immediately cross it out. But then I haven't gotten back to it. So if I don't get back to it and finish it soon, I'm going to have to add it to my whip list. We'll see. Stay tuned. We'll find out what happens. All right. So I got back to the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Castle Homecoming and Stitch Along. Now this is one that I've kept up with pretty well, although I have not stitched the most recent part. And I think the next part, oh God, it's probably coming out any day. It's probably coming out really soon. I can't remember. They're not on, it's not like the first of the month. They come out, you know, like they come out on kind of random days of the month. But anyway, I've mostly kept up with this stitch along, and another part had come out, and I was now going to be 2 parts back if I didn't get back to it. So I got back to it, and I got this whole part done right up here, but now there's currently a section right here that I need to stitch before the next section comes out. So I do need to get back to this soon. This is a 32 count even weave by Mystic Fabrics. It's called Sweet Treat. And I am not using the called for colors, but I mostly am. I'm using most of the called for DMC, and I'm just subbing in, I'm subbing in sparkly floss when I feel moved to do so. But otherwise, it's mostly the called for DMC. Like, I think this section, I didn't use any sparkles, so I used all the called for colors. But, like on the dragon and the Loch Ness Monster in the center there, I did use like DMC Etoile and some sparkles. And then the only real change I've made is the princess here was really much different colors, and I made her princess peach colors. So I did totally change the colors on that. But otherwise, I'm kind of just going with what they did because, I mean, they do such a good job. Like, their colors are always fantastic. Their designs are fantastic. Like, I don't need to mess with perfection, you know? So I'm only just making things sparkly, really. And even like the skin tones, they're diverse. These are all the called for, like, charted skin tones on the people. So they're good about like doing a mix of different tones of skin so that I don't have to do it myself. They already are. So I'm really happy with this. When I struggle to keep up with stitch along, so I'm really proud that I am keeping up so well. But I also, I don't know, I sometimes feel like a little chained to them. So I appreciate that this one is quick. Like, if I will just sit down and do it, I can do each part in like 2 or 3 days. They're not really time consuming stitches. It's just taking the time to stop, sit down, and do it. That's, you know, that's the challenge for me. So my last work in progress to show is what was previously my car stitching project when we've been on the road. You know, every week we would move to a new location and we would drive several hours. I would drive sometimes, and or at least, you know, like half the time, but it would still leave me several hours in the car for stitching. So this had been my car project. However, I don't drive anywhere anymore. So I realized, like, if I ever want to finish this, I have to actually make this just a regular, like, project that I work on in the house. So I did finally get back to this, and I've gotten a lot done on this. I got this whole moth. I've gotten a lot done up here. So This is not too far off from a finish. I just have all this little bit over here. But this is a plastic canvas kit from Innocent Bones. It's a UK-based design company. And I actually did buy this from her as a kit. So it came with the plastic canvas, a needle, and the floss. She does... I don't know what just happened, but that was Arlo. She does offer a lot of her designs as PDF patterns, which is great because then you can just, you know, pull from stash. But I did buy this as a kit, and I think these plastic canvas kits, she does not offer just like the pattern itself as a PDF. So I think, unfortunately, if you're interested in this pattern, you do have to buy the kit. But regardless, I'm almost done. So that's gonna be, I think, that's going to be my next focus on a finish, because I need to finish 2 more things in November. So that should be one of my 2 that'll be easy for me to get done. So that's all my stitching. I have one little piece of haul. So I am going to start a Mirabilia with my friend Sarah. She is a Flosstuber. She is I Swear I Am Stitching, and I'll link her down below. And she was borrowing a page from Janet Jabber, who has stitched the Mirabilia Queens seasonally. So if, you know, there's hundreds of Mirabilia designs, but there are 4 that are specifically called Spring Queen, Summer Queen, Autumn Queen, and Winter Queen. And so Janet had decided she would work on each of those like in the season. So from, you know, summer solstice until autumn equinox, she works on the Summer Queen. So Sarah decided she wanted to do something like that, but she didn't want to do those 4 specific Mirabilia pieces. So she picked 4 like fancy ladies, whether it be Mirabilia or Bella Filipina or, you know, whatever else. But she picked like 4 fancy ladies that felt seasonal to her. And she's, in one of her Flosstubes, she was saying, here's what I've picked for winter. And she said she wanted to stitch At the Met by Mirabilia. And this is one that I have wanted to stitch, but hadn't actually gotten around to like buying it, but had always planned to stitch it and even had fabric for it, but still was like, well, I'll buy it when I'm ready, you know? And so I was like, well, this is good motivation. So I messaged Sarah and I was like, look, I've wanted to start that one. Like, I'm going to join you. So we're going to start this on winter solstice. So I was like, I'm in. I love it. It's finally my excuse like, to stitch this. But I said, I have to show you my friend Melissa's finish of this and why I wanted to stitch it so bad. And I'll insert a picture. So my friend Melissa, she's Starla Stitcher on Instagram. And she finished this like 2 years ago or longer. It's been a while. But she was inspired and she stitched hers on this beautiful like burgundy fabric. And it's a dyer that you can't, like, that's out of business, so you can't get it. But anyway, she, when she did it, I thought it was so stunningly beautiful. And I ended up at some point, I think it was in a mystery, it was in one of those Stitchy Box, not Stitchy Box the company, but in one of those stitching boxes. I had gotten this piece of fabric from Jody at Steel City Stitchers, and it's called Crimson Peak. It's a 32 count linen. And when I got this fabric, I was like, that is what I'm using for At the Met. So I've had this fabric for a while, but I hadn't actually bought the pattern. So this is my haul. I bought the pattern and the bead pack. So I'm all ready to go. Well, I've got to pull some floss. It calls for some Karen water lilies, but they're used in small amounts. So I'm just going, I think I have 2 of them, and then the other 2, I'm just going to find something in stash that looks like similar. I'm not going to go out and buy them. But the beads, of course, it's a big bead pack. So I did want to get that sourced. But yeah, I'm so excited. I'm going to copy Melissa, I'm going to copy Sarah and join in, and I'm going to be starting that on winter solstice, which is, it'll be December 21st or 22nd. I think it can vary, so I have to look that up. But anyway, if anybody wants to join in, you can, if you want to stitch at the Met with us, or anything that like you feel is like that winter, like that special winter project. That's kind of like, that's the theme or the vibe, is just like something to celebrate like winter. So if you have something that you feel is wintry and will fit, and you want to start it with us, then we would love to have you. So all right, so that is all the stitching. So I'm going to talk about some books now. So if you are not interested in hearing about books, that's totally cool. You can leave now and you're not going to miss any stitching stuff. So let's talk about some books. So I have, I've read quite a few, and I'm about to finish a few. So next video, I'll probably have a bunch to talk about. I am now in my like Christmas romance era, but before that, I had finished some more like spooky themed stuff. So I'll talk about those first, and then I'll talk about some Christmas romances I'm reading. So around Halloween, I was reading Such Sharp Teeth by Rachel Harrison. This author wrote the novel Cackle, which I loved. So Cackle is a novel about like witches, basically. And this is a werewolf novel. So I enjoyed Cackle so much that I definitely wanted to check out Such Sharp Teeth. And I really did enjoy this, but it's not like... I can't really, I don't imagine I'll ever reread this, so it's not like an all-time fave, whereas I think I would reread Cackle, but that doesn't mean this wasn't good. It was very, very good. I think I'd give it like 4 or 4.5 stars. I did enjoy it quite a bit, but this is a novel about a woman who has to come home to help take care of her sister, her twin sister, and while she's home, and it's one of those, like, it was a small town, she left and moved to the big city, and she's like living her best life in the big city, but not really, she's not really terribly happy. And anyway, she comes home to her small town, and she ends up, like hitting a deer or something like that, and she gets out of the car, and she's bitten by a werewolf, and she turns into a werewolf. So that's the novel, right? I did feel like it was a little bit slow paced. Like it did really drag, like for a lot of the novel. It finally picked up a little bit at the end. But the writing is very good. It was a little short on action for me. But it's overall a short novel. I think it's like, it was like 320 pages. So it wasn't like I had to slog through like a 500 page novel. I did enjoy it. I didn't like love it. If you are interested in a werewolf novel, like sure, for sure, check it out. But I couldn't like just tell everybody like, you gotta read this. Whereas I really, really enjoyed Cackle, and I would actually recommend that one. But yeah, I enjoy this author's writing style, but this one was just very good, but not like super great for me, but good. So if you're interested in a werewolf novel with like a feminist bent to it, check it out. So then I read a romance on Kindle Unlimited, and it's called Morbidly Yours, and it's by Ivy Fairbanks. And this was one that I totally just fell for the cover. You know, like I saw it somewhere, I saw the cover, I loved it, and then I looked at the synopsis, and it was like, you know, an American moves to Ireland for a job, and her next door neighbor is an undertaker, and they fall in love. And he's grumpy and she's sunshine. And I was like, say no more. Say no more. Sounds perfect, right? So I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I definitely like jumped into it literally based on like vibes. But it was so good. I really enjoyed this one. So I was shocked to find out this was the author's debut novel. It's her first novel, and it was so good. It's not unusual for like a debut novel to be really, really good, but sometimes you can just, sometimes you're just, when you find out it's a debut novel, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, you know, I could see maybe there were some pacing issues or whatever, you know, just, I was just really surprised, like how well written and how good it was for being her first novel. But anyway, Kindle Unlimited is a subscription service, for your Kindle, where you have, authors have their novels, or their stories on Kindle Unlimited. So you pay like a monthly subscription fee, and then you can read anything in the Kindle Unlimited catalog, like no limit. So if you are someone who reads really, really fast, like my sister, it's a, you know, it's a great subscription to have, because you just keep, you don't have to buy full price books outright. But where Kindle Unlimited has really like taken off and become really successful is through these like super spicy romance novels. There's a lot of dark romance or fantasy romance on there, but there's also just contemporary romance. So this wasn't fantasy or dark. It was a contemporary romance, but it was just really, it was done really well. So again, American moves to Ireland for a job. She's there for a contract. It's like maybe an 11-month job or something like that. And then her neighbor is like kind of this introverted, he's not really grumpy, but he's just introverted and socially awkward, and kind of stays home alone, and like, you know, doesn't really know how to go out and like people. So the story is about her kind of like bringing him out of his shell, and they are friends. They decide like pretty much right away, like they're going to be friends, but then they're both like falling for each other. And there was definitely like steam and spice in the novel, but it was also just had this really overall like sweet and wholesome feeling to it. But I mean, there were definitely like explicit like sex scenes in it, but it just still felt really sweet and wholesome. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was definitely like one of my favorite reads of, you know, the past few months. And I still can't believe it's her first book. So I'm really excited to see, you know, what else she comes up with, because I thought it was just so good. And it also, you know, the setting, so it's in Galway. And so, you know, it's this small, charming city, but still feels like kind of like a small town vibe. And you get like the local Irish, you know, you get the dialogue, the vernacular, the local pub. Like you get just so many vibes, and it was really nice. And I really was like, why can't I move to Galway for a job? And then I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense for me. But it was so good. I loved it. I really loved it. So we're still in Halloween spooky season at this point. So I started a new book from Sophie Lark, who is another wildly successful Kindle Unlimited author. And she released, for Halloween, she released a book called Grimstone. And I wasn't really hearing anybody talk about it, but I was like, well, why not? I'll, you know, I've enjoyed, I've read 3 or 4 books by her, and I've really enjoyed them. So I was like, okay, sounds good. And this one was, it wasn't bad at all, but it was missing something for me. I'm not really sure what. I just kind of found it kind of forgettable. Like I read it a couple weeks ago, and I'm already like, I don't know, like what happened to that book? So like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all, but it just was a little, I don't know. It was a little bit forgettable, a little bit slow, and I don't know. I don't think I would read it again, but it wasn't bad. I think I'd give it like 3.5 stars. But anyway, it's a book. Let me see what I can remember about this book. So the main character, I don't remember her name. Don't ask me. She inherits her great uncle's mansion, which is like falling down, decrepit, disgusting. And she's like, all right, I'm going to flip it and sell it. That's what we're doing, right? So she goes to this like small coastal town, and sorry, the camera's moving. That was Arlo. And her driveway up to her house is like a private road that her neighbor owns. So she has to like form an arrangement with him to like use the road. And he's like, cool, well, you seem handy, like you can come over and like you know, fix things around my house or whatever. So that's kind of like how the story starts. And then it like very quickly like becomes like, maybe that's why I didn't like it. It was almost like immediately becomes like a sexual relationship, and it just seemed a little far-fetched. Like your neighbor that you met a couple hours ago, like you're already like hooking up. It was a little weird. But there was some weird plot choices. And I think where it differed from most of like the books I would read by Sophie Lark, which are romances, is that it was a romance, but it was also like a murder mystery. And that was like, I didn't care. Like, I don't read thrillers and I don't read mysteries. So I was kind of like, what is this like subplot? Like, and then it had at the end, like the whodunit was so hokey and weird that I think maybe that kind of turned me off of it. But that was like the very end of the book. So I had an okay time reading it in the meantime. I'm really not selling this because I guess I really don't need to sell this. Like, if you want to read a book, like a steamy, fun romance by Sophie Lark, like read her Stolen Heir or her Brutal Mafia series. I don't know. The first book is Brutal Prince, and the second book is Stolen Heir, and it's like Chicago mafia families, and like just read that. Grimstone was, you know, she writes these books like really quick. She churns them out, and I think it showed with this one. Like she just kind of sat down and like wrote this like dark, weird book, and it's a book. It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't great. It was fine. All right, now the moment you've probably all been waiting for. Yes, I did read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. Of course I did. Are you kidding me? I was lucky. So if you haven't heard, this book had some terrible, terrible issues with quality control in the printing process. And I will say I'm not surprised. The first book, Fourth Wing, came out in May and was like a surprise smash hit, right? I don't think they anticipated just how big of a viral hit it was going to be. So I think, you know, the second book was already in the works. They'd probably already done the print run and everything. And then I think they had to basically like double it. So they probably went from like a 200,000 copy print run to a 500,000 copy print run. So I think they were working around the clock and just trying to crank these out, and rather than push back the release. So I actually got a good copy, but I had seen some horror stories. People's pages were bound upside down. They were missing pages, like there was damage. My sister got her copy and like the cover was all ripped out. It was like totally torn up. I got a good copy. The only thing on mine that's, you know, a thing, and it's a minor thing, is on chapter 17, I don't have the little dragon emblem. That's how there's been so many printing issues with this book. So all of the chapters have this little like dragon. And so my chapter 17 is missing it, but that is the only like defect I have found in my book. So I feel pretty lucky I got a good one, but regardless, I just wanted to address that because I know people will probably be curious. But this is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. It is going to be 5 books, I believe. And I really loved it. I didn't love it as much as the first one, but that's okay. Like, it was still wonderful. So the first one, of course, is, you've probably heard of it, right? So Fourth Wing is a romantasy. So it's a romance and a fantasy. And I think that's part of why, you know, it's been so successful and gripped so many people, because it's not just straight fantasy. There's this really emotional love story in there too. But it's about a young woman who enters a military academy to become a dragon rider. But it's a super ruthless, crazy academy where you could die like every day. So, you know, like 1/4 of the class actually graduates. It's extremely lethal and dangerous. And in the meantime, there's this revolution, the government is hiding things. things, like whole subplot going on. So she's like just trying to survive school and also finding out like her government has been lying to her. There are dark magic wielders. Like I'm not trying to get spoilery. This is all like pretty obvious information, but there's just a lot of like political intrigue and things that she's navigating while she's falling in love with the man who really should be like her sworn enemy. So it's an enemies to lovers. But yeah, it was, the first book was so fun, like such a page turner. Like, people, people like, a lot of people love the book, but some people really like to knock on it because, it was a little bit predictable. It was a little bit like kind of basic run of the mill, writing and fantasy and like plot devices. But that's what made it so fun for me. Like, she wasn't reinventing the wheel. Like, she was writing like some basic fantasy, but she was writing it at it was paced perfectly, and it was just fun. Like, I would read something and just gasp out loud, and then I was like, I have to keep reading. Like, I would sit down and be like, I'm gonna read a chapter or two, and then like I couldn't put it down. It was just a really fun ride. So I think if you go in like not taking these too seriously, they're really fun. If you are like a seasoned high fantasy snobbish reader, like you're gonna hate them. But guess what? I do read high fantasy and very much enjoy it, but like I'm not above like a little bit of cheese. So I still like loved it, even though I also can read the other stuff. But yeah, it was such a fun book. And this book, like I said, just slightly less fun, but still really good, and still lots of like gasp out loud moments. And of course, she left us with like another major cliffhanger, which is what she did in the first book. And I'm sure she's going to do it in every book. And that's so cruel. It's so cruel, but I get it. But yeah, I mean, this book, the last few chapters, you're like, are you freaking kidding me? Really? And then like, boom, it's going to be like probably another year before you get the third book. So good luck. But yeah, I loved it. If y'all want to talk about it, like, let's talk about it. Because I know like when people finish a book like that, they're like, oh my God, I have thoughts. I can't get into it in my video because it'll be spoilery, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. So after I finished that, I was ready for the Christmas seasonal romance. Bring it on. So I went to my library on my Libby app and was looking for audiobooks, Christmas romance audiobooks at my library. And honestly, like they sadly had quite a lack. There were some, and I could tell they were those ones where like they're very wholesome, or even maybe like more like Christian romance, like where they maybe don't even like kiss. And I'm not saying I have to have like explicit spicy scenes. I'm not saying that, but like it's weird to me to read like a 350-page book about two people falling in love and there's not even a kiss. Like, I think it's weird. So that was kind of like what I was finding at my library. At least that's what it, based on like covers and stuff, that's what it looked like to me. But I tried to find a few that might be promising. So I found one. It's called The Christmas Castle in Scotland. It's by Julie Kaplan. It is a closed door. Like they do hook up, but you don't get like details. Like, it's like, the next morning and they're like, wow, that was a great night. And you're like, okay, like what happened? But anyway, so just to let you know, it's not a spicy Christmas romance, but it was very cute. So a woman inherits a castle in Scotland. And she goes, so the book starts with her going to the castle, and it needs some repairs, and she needs to kind of get her feet under her before she opens it up for guests as like a bed and breakfast or an inn. So she gets there, and there's a man there, and he's a writer, and her mother, who's going to help her like run the castle, is like, well, I told him he could stay, like, and she's like, but we're not ready for guests yet. And she's like, well, I know, but he was willing to pay a lot of money. He just wants a quiet environment so he can like write his book. So they're like, alrighty. So they're trying to like fix up the castle while this guy's there to write his book. But yeah, it's just a really cute story. There's like really cute, fun side characters, and it's literally just like a wholesome story about her trying to fix up this castle while falling in love with this guy. So I enjoyed it. It wasn't, it's probably pretty forgettable. I'm not gonna like ever probably reread it. I don't think it's like a super popular book. I'd never heard of it, but I found it at my library and it was cute. So I did enjoy it. So then I read a new Kindle Unlimited romance. So it's called Big Nick Energy, and it's by Morgan Elizabeth. And she had like a pretty smash hit holiday novel last Christmas called 'Tis the Season for Revenge, which was inspired by Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. It was so good. I loved it. I read it last Christmas. So I'm just giving Arlo like a little face massage here. He's just happy as can be. I read it last Christmas and I absolutely loved it. It was called 'Tis the Season for Revenge. Like super spicy, super fun. So when I saw she had another like holiday romance, I was like, yes, I'm in. Sign me up. So it's called Big Nick Energy. And it was really, really good. Not quite like what I would normally go for. So it's like a single mom with 2 kids, which is fine. And then like an older man. He's not a lot older, but he's like 6 or 7 years older than her. And he has like a grown son. And it's like their story. But it just wasn't like quite my buzzwords that would like make me want to read a book. But it was really just because I had enjoyed the other book I'd read by the author, I decided to give it a chance, and it was really, really cute. It was really sweet. So she's getting out of like an abusive relationship, and she has 2 young daughters, and she's not looking for, any kind of like relationship at all. And he meets her and he's just like, she's it for me. Like that is my woman. Those are going to be my kids. Like, it's very sweet. But he like just immediately is like, this woman is it. And so he kind of just sets about to like win her over by just showing up and like taking care of things and doing things for her and her kids. Very, very wholesome, very, very sweet. But also like explicit spicy too. So it was good. I mean, I definitely like blew through it and I really enjoyed it. And if any of that like sounds interesting to you, like it was very sweet. It was very good. I think I got one more. Let me see. I'm looking at my list. All right, so I've got one more. So I read a novella called Wrapped Up in You by Talia Hibbert, and this is at my library. So I said, perfect. Let me jump on that. And the reason I wanted to read it, of course, is because I have read the Brown Sisters series by Talia Hibbert. Get a Life, Chloe Brown is the first one, and I loved that book so much. And so I was like, ooh, like a little holiday novella. It's gonna be like steamy and spicy. Like, sign me up. I'm in. And it was a short, like 5-hour audiobook. And I listened to it sped up, so it was less than 5 hours. But I will say this one was kind of forgettable for me. Like it wasn't bad. It was kind of weird because there's no spice at all until the epilogue. Like, I was really surprised because by that point, I had just accepted like, oh, this isn't a spicy romance. It's just a cute romance novella, but no spice. And then like on the last 3 pages, we get like a sex scene. So it was weird. I was like, oh, okay, there it is. So I'm just throwing that out there. It was a little weird for me. Like, why didn't we just have like them hook up like at some other point, like in the story? Like, that's weird. But anyway, it was an entertaining like short novella, but it features childhood friends, and he's famous. He's like a famous actor, and she's just a regular old gal, and he's been like in love with her secretly for years and years and years. And she's finally like out of her relationship, and he's like, it's my time. I'm going to make my move. I'm going to like go home for Christmas and win her over. And so the book is just him like trying to win her over. And there's like some good tension. There's some like steamy kisses and like, you know, unrequited like angst and stuff. Like it was very entertaining. But like I said, it was just weird that there was like no hookup until like the last few pages. It was like, and here is my gift to you. The book is over. Here's a sex scene. Good night. Goodbye. Like, it was a little odd, but I mean, it was fun. Like, if you want to, if you have it like at your library, like check it out. I wouldn't pay for it. I don't think it's like worth much in the way of like buying it, but like it was fine. So it's called Wrapped Up in You by Talia Hibbert. It was cute. So on that note, that's it. That's all my books. And I'm all done, and I'm ready to get my coffee now. So if you made it this far, like always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.